Hello, everyone, and welcome again to Leaders Uncut. If you are here for the first time, welcome to the show where we have incredible speakers coming on a regular basis who are teaching us everything about new technologies and what they are doing to embrace this incredibly exciting future. And today we have with us Andrew Ettinger, who is the founder and CEO of Game Plan Partners. Hello, Andrew. It's so great to have you on the show today.
Hey, Catherine, thanks. Great to be here. I appreciate it. Look forward to it.
Yeah, likewise. So I can't wait for you to tell us about, first of all, a little bit of a background of yours that would be interesting to know, and as well as what you're doing with Game Plan Partners. Let me say this right. So go for it.
No worries. I've spent the bulk of my career in technical infrastructure, cloud, AI, and data systems. Over the last 15 years, my teams have been responsible for $2 billion in ARR and a whole bunch of services and a bunch of good runs, which was a lot of fun and amazing. Currently, Game Plan Partners serves as an advisory consultant to early stage startup founders who are in a very technical space, looking to build out their go-to-market teams, build out their go-to-market plans, and really set the foundation for success. I've got a lot of passion about people, talent, and the systems, and oftentimes early stage founders make some mistakes and it costs them a lot of money and, more importantly, time in their journey. And if I could play a role to help to mitigate a lot of that risk and obviously help them on the revenue curve, it's pretty fulfilling. So it's been a lot of fun and really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, that's a powerful background here. So you help also companies with recruiting, right? I mean, that's one of your edge, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think identifying the right talent is something that a lot of companies struggle with. I started by just advising on like overall go-to-market plans, and what quickly happened, right, that folks ask are like, well, who do I hire?
Yeah.
Right? Where do they come from? How do I evaluate whether they're good or not? How do I know if they're going to be good? And obviously, you don't ever know. In hiring, you're never going to be perfect at all. But just the basics of like, well, you need to go develop pipeline growth. So we need to make sure they come from a place that develops pipeline, right? We need to make sure that they've sold into the same types of buyers that you're selling to, right? They don't have to have a fancy logo in order for them to necessarily be good. Sometimes, you need to just work through the right questions. Like, let's have them present, at the end, something back to you so that they know your business. And again, these things seem basic to those that have done this for a long time, but a lot of folks need help. Just like I would need a lot of help coding if I wanted to start a company, right? I'd have no idea. So just a very good compliment.
Yeah, I mean, that's important. Yeah, you're right. I mean, recruiting is always difficult because some people have a great resume, but very often their personality doesn't fit the culture of the company. That's something that has to be taken into consideration among a lot of other things. So you are also, Andrew, you are also a data, cloud, AI expert. I can say that because you've been working with this for a long time. And of course, these are areas where a lot of companies are challenged right now because it's almost like every day there are 10 new companies coming up with new AI solutions. And what that does, it confuses us even more. I mean, what am I supposed to do? Why should I choose? So is that something that you can also advise? You can assist companies in implementing the right AI solutions for their current needs, and then put together a plan so that they can scale up with the right tools, with the right systems to enhance their success and their growth in general. Can you talk about this? That would be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I don't know if I call myself an expert, but I would say I have experience, which means you've made a lot of mistakes. Hopefully you learn from them and hopefully you do know a thing or two. But all kidding aside, yeah, absolutely. Look, I actually had a post on LinkedIn today where I said slow is the new fast, right? And what I meant by that is, particularly in go-to-market, there's way more tools than people need right now or could even spend the time to evaluate.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, most of these tools contain a few very nice features that are not necessarily products. And there are a lot of people rushing to say that I'm using AI tools as if that's going to solve their problem of finding product market fit, conveying the right message to the right persona such that they understand the outcomes that you can deliver that are incrementally better than when they're at today, and so on and so forth. And so, really at the end, and I post a lot on that, and sometimes it's confusing. I am so pro AI. I'm just not pro, I have a problem, give me an AI solution and it's solved.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think you do need to tread very carefully, but there are a few key areas that you could look at in leveraging those. And look, there's a multitude of ways to go do it, but you need to be very selective and start small, understand what that gives to you, and then build upon that. And it's powerful, and it's going to really dramatically change the landscape, but there's definitely too much of it out there, and a lot of things that are not going to wind up being companies.
You're right. I mean, a lot of those companies will disappear in the next year or two. They won't make it. I mean, this is typical, right? When there are new technologies coming up, there's always a natural creaming out of a lot of companies that won't exist in a couple of years from now, which is even more challenging. So, what do you say to businesses, whatever industries they are in? What do you say to people who say, I have time? I'm not going to take care of anything right now. What I have done has always worked. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And I tackle all this when I feel like it.
Yeah. You say good luck, because the world is changing extremely fast and they have their head buried in the sand. You don't need to be that smart or understand what Lovable does, what Bolt does, what Cursor does, what Codium does and their Windsurf. Like, you don't need to be a rocket science to understand that. What you can fundamentally do if you pay attention to the news is realize that it is easier than ever to rapidly create net new software applications. And in order to do that, you don't actually need to know how to code anymore. And it's being called this AI native development paradigm. And so what that means is any software can be copied, right? Any software can be enhanced. And so if you think you have a reasonable moat and business based on what you've done for the last 3, 5, 7, 10 years, you might be fine going forward if no one finds that or plucks out that industry or that problem. But anyone can go create it tomorrow. You and I can start tomorrow and have something up and running. And if our differentiator is just more hustle, more distribution, and a few other things, like, we can catch up in a matter of months when someone took 10 years to get to that point. And if I was them, that's scary to me.
Yeah. And it is scary, but also what I've learned, because I'm always exposed to new solutions. What's amazing is that they are very often so easy to implement, and they are very inexpensive, and they save so much time, and they increase productivity in ways that are just outstanding, that you just can't imagine someone not at least trying to utilize those new tools, because they are game changing.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a double arbitrage moment that's in front of us right now. Mm-hmm. On one hand, if you look at traditional IT spend, IT budgets, right, that's being disrupted with AI in a multitude of ways. Development is one area that I spoke about, and a whole host of others, right, where IT shops are going to be able to reallocate a lot of their dollars to at least deliver the same or more outcomes with less, and then reinvest the leftover dollars into other things. And so there's arbitrage in that whole portfolio right now. Mm-hmm. However, there's also arbitrage right now in the human capital element of how the rest of all of these large businesses run, where AI is going to disrupt and replace a lot of the tasks that humans perform right now. Yeah. And that's a whole separate budget and a whole separate opportunity for companies to deploy that and realize those economies of scale, those benefits. And whether they use that for greater underlying operating leverage at the earnings level, or they then use that to reinvest in other areas, is up to them. But you have both of those moments right now. And so even the large global 2000 companies are dramatically rethinking how they're going to be shaped in the future, because this is where it's going. It's not there right now, and you can't do that whole holistically now, but those are the conversations that the C-levels and the board are having, and the right prudent way to go do that. And it's moving a lot faster than the cloud. And I promise you, there's no board that's going to be caught moving slow, right, like some were, right, in the cloud or mobile era. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, that's something that needs to be tackled. And like I said to everyone, you don't have to implement everything all at once. just start small steps, step by step, because I think at each step you may uncover something that you did not know, or you may find or think of solutions that you had not thought of. So it's really wise. First of all, it's easier to embrace. It's not as overwhelming. Otherwise, it feels like an overwhelming task. But when you do it step by step, then it feels doable. It's less intimidating, and it's easier to have people follow you. I mean, board members follow you, or executives agree on tackling one path or the other. Is that's something that you see people doing actually, and that you have a tendency to advise yourself?
Absolutely. And that's very well said. And that's why I say slow is the new fast, which is ironic because I'm all gas, no brakes, like in real life. And by the way, I'm not saying to move slow in general. What I'm saying is, to your point, let me just talk from a chief revenue officer's perspective, right? I could buy 50 tools with AI that all seemingly would deliver very good outcomes. But there is no way my team is using 50 of them. They're not going to be integrated together. I know they're all SaaS, but like still there's management, there's user onboarding, offboarding, there's just things that happen. And I, as a CRO, can't afford to be a CIO, right? And deploy, right, a bunch of people to manage all of that. And now I'm not going to get the outcome. So let's start with the first thing. A rep spends 30, 50% of their time, right, prospecting. So how do I enable them to focus the most amount of that time, right, actually doing that work and not doing the research? So let me first automate and give you research that allows you to go much faster so that when you are prospecting, you're more accurate, you're more relevant, you've got multiple ways like to drive messaging. And now that 30 to 50%, I could probably 2x or 3x my output, right? Because the input is now dramatically increased. Like that's a great way to start. And when I say like slow, like start there, get everyone doing that. What's going to happen in a month? Every single rep is going to be like, this is incredible. I was able to go after 100 companies this week, and last week it was 10. This is unbelievable, right? And now you can build and compound on that to say like, all right, like what would be the next leg? What would be the next leg? And ultimately, what does my stack look like, right? And I think the same thing holds true with coding, right? Like, again, you have your head buried in the sand if you're not allowing or enabling your team to use a coding assistant, right? I don't know which one's the best, but use one and start with an app or a portfolio or a new thing and see how that goes. Start with a dozen, go to 2 departments, right? And then you could start to build on top of that, and you can go much faster that way and be much more, in sync with a system and alignment. So that's kind of what I mean by that. And I think it's, resonated at least for some of the projects I've worked on.
Is your marketing making an impact? Are you reaching the right audience? Is your messaging truly connecting? Are you maximizing your return on investment? At Slice Marketing, we use AI-powered insights to fine-tune your targeting, optimize your messaging, design high-converting websites, and craft content that inspires, entertains, and educates, all to amplify your brand's impact. Sometimes a small adjustment can create big results. Let's chat, no strings attached. Email us at catherine.oaks@slicemarketing.com or visit our website.
Makes sense?
It does make complete sense. And the other thing that's critical is you don't work in a silo, and most executives have to report to someone. and those someone, they're going to ask for proof. They are going to ask for data. They are going to ask for statistics, right? Because you don't make long-term decisions unless you have data, and data that is reliable. And when you start implementing those new solutions, it also will give you some data, because they always include some type of statistics as part of your effort. So I think that's why it's always important to start to get the momentum going, so you can get back with something that's credible.
If you see me smiling and laughing, it's because you're spot on. And literally last week, a friend of mine called, and he's a CRO, pretty big team, pretty big company. And he said, hey, I got stumped at the board meeting. I was like, you? How'd that happen? Like, you're all over like everything. Like, the board asked me what AI tools I'm using. And I didn't have an answer. So what do you think I should be using? And to your point, I said, well, do you want to go back and say I'm using these three tools and have them say great? Or do you want to pick one tool and say I saved my reps 30 to 50% of their time and research that's resulting in them going after more of that and give them tangible data and outcomes on how you're applying that and have them be like, that's amazing that we can go after more accounts. Like that was one example. And he was like, yes, that's exactly what, I want to do. So to your point, the statistics, the data, the outcomes, right? And the board is now asking that, which is the right question, right? It's just the answer shouldn't just be acceptable if I use, whatever.ai and then, oh, okay, good, you're doing it. It's like, no, I got to be doing it in the right way that has an outcome attached to it.
That's true. I mean, they are not going to expect you to say, hey, yes, I'm going to build Rome in one day. That's just right. They just want you they want to see that you have started thinking about this and that you're doing it in a logical way. That's what they want. That's it.
Which is fair. That's your job.
Which is fair. That's their job. So anyway, I mean, I think it's important to tackle this because I speak with CEOs every day. And every day, what do we speak about is just that. Is, okay, I need to revamp my brand. My brand is outdated. Where do I start? And I need to build competitive advantages. My competitors are not doing it and I need to do it now. So where do I start? I mean, every single day I have this type of conversations. And my answer is always the same. Well, let's put together a plan step by step with a timeline that can be implemented without spending everything you have in your bank account. That's all they want to know. Give me a plan and then we can start small and then I can sell that to my board and I can talk about my executive team and have them on board and follow up with me so that together as a team we can start implementing everything. I mean, that's becoming a daily event for me.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And back to like talent and everything else, that's going to help you, recruit the right talent and, take a measurable approach towards things. So I think that's really smart. So you're doing some great work. Thank you.
No, thank you. I mean, we're all in the same boat right now, all trying to adjust. But I think the more I'm exposed to all of this and the more I speak with people, the more I realize, okay, it's nothing new. Every 20, 30 years, we have something new, a new wave of technology that forces us to change what we're doing. And it's okay, it's a good thing, but it is challenging. It's just a matter of tackling it the right way and remaining calm and composed and organized. And the world is not going to disappear tomorrow. We're still going to be here and we just have to be smart about it. That's all. Right?
Yes, very, very well said. And there are a lot of patterns in history that we can learn from. Right. And at the end of the day, when the technological substrate changes, so does everything else around it. Right. The tools, the techniques, the methodologies, the talent, everything else required to go compete. It's just moving a lot faster this time as things did when it went to the internet and, mobile and cloud. It's just going a lot faster and the stakes are a lot larger.
I know. I think you just have to be open-minded. And I really believe all this new tech, it sometimes can be scary. But I really believe it's going to change our lives for the better. It's going to give us time to actually live and not just work. And that's what I see coming, is that AI is going to take a lot of work of jobs that we have been doing. But it's going to allow us to be probably more creative and start thinking like humans a little bit more. And when we think like humans, we come up with human solutions that are better for the longevity of our planet, because that also is going to come into place. This is why we have people like Elon Musk looking at living on Mars. And I think in a few decades or maybe a couple of centuries, I think it's not going to happen right away. But I think soon we'll be able to travel from one planet to the other, and we'll do it because of technology, and that will be part of our survival. So I think it's really important to think that way, to think in a broad fashion, because we have more coming. And one of the items that is also coming is quantum computing. So I don't know if you have to tackle this with your audience. What do you think about that, Andrew?
Well, it's funny because I think it's, the thing that gets talked about that's always close for the last 15 years. It's always been so close, right? I think now that moment, certainly is there. Similar, like, the edge was, always close, but then once the connected devices started happening, the edge became real. Yeah. And I think quantum, look, I'm not smart enough to tell you if it's mainstream in 18 months, 36, or 60. But, fundamentally, as these agents start to take over and push more and more of these applications, right, out into the world, into production, into the edge, into the factories everywhere, quantum is certainly going to become very pervasive. And so it does seem like it's close, but we still, I think, have to see many more of these applications in production at large scale for that to take off in a widespread manner. But, look, I could be surprised, and not suggesting that I'm an expert, but based on the folks that I'm talking to, that's kind of what I'm hearing.
Yeah, no, that's true. But I have to tell you, though, I mean, I was on a call with IBM, 3 weeks ago. They have plants of quantum computers ready to go, and so is Microsoft, and so is Amazon. They are all there staging the new the clouds, the computer systems that will speed up everything we do even more. I mean, that's going to take another dimension that we can't even think about right now. But they are staging everything right now. They are ready to go. I mean, literally they are. And the government is talking about this too. They're not making this official, but they are also talking about this because they realize that it will speed up everything, and it will also reduce a lot of the expenses and costs in everything we do.
Yeah, and look, who would have thought that people were going to take on building special purpose clouds for AI with GPUs and things like that, right? You're going to see CoreWeave going public. You've got folks like Grok that are building unbelievable inference clouds with hardware, software, and tooling for developers, right? And so you're starting to see these very specialized cloud applications with technology, or clouds, right, for developers with underlying, tech that's differentiated out there, and, it's being used in a widespread way. So I think you're going to continue to see more of that. Quantum will be an example. Certainly the hyperscalers will have it, but I'm sure, there are others that will have their, purpose-built clouds just for that. It'll be interesting to see, how all that plays out.
Yeah, that's going to be, I think we're living fascinating times. So how do you feel about the future, Andrew?
I think it's great. I mean, anyone, involved in this, like I have some friends that joke like, what a great time to be alive, right? Yeah. And, it is, and it's exciting. And I think, look, whether, you're excited about traveling to space with a cell phone, whether you're excited about self-driving taxis or not, I think once you start to see humanity get changed with cancer being able to be predicted and some of the things happening in healthcare to really have an effect on people, particularly, right, like our parents' generation, and as, we start to get up there in age, of course, neither you or I are of age yet, right? But, as you start to see those things, I think then, you're really going to, be really proud, right? Because tech, to improve developer productivity and all those good things is amazing. Don't get me wrong. And the outcomes of that sometimes can be, really beneficial to society. Don't get me wrong. But I think when the healthcare stuff is just fascinating and wild, I've seen some crazy things to predict, liver cancer and things like that. And, we've got we got a lot of problems, but those are some big problems, and those start to get solved. That's just going to be amazing.
I agree with you. And what quantum computing and quantum technologies are going to be able to enable is the creation of new solutions, new products, new medicines, new everything that will also solve a lot of the issues that are killing millions of people right now. So I'm really excited about that one for sure.
Yeah, and I've never been involved in healthcare or healthcare tech, but a lot of things I've seen now, the promise is just unbelievable. So, the fact that all that can be reimagined so quickly and have an impact on lives is super important. Although, look, I was at dinner the other night, and, it's sometimes fun to talk about this with people that aren't in it, right? That are just in other industries. And a friend of mine was, like, yeah, you realize all the self-driving cars and taxis is actually going to reduce the amount of deaths and the amount of accidents that happen on the road, because everything is going to be driven by data and sensors. Yeah, you'll have your, occasional faulty thing that happens, but that's still going to dwarf the number of car accidents that take lives from us every day by virtue of putting data and sensors and robots in charge. And our wives never had really thought or contemplated about it in those terms. And they're like, wow, that's unbelievable. So to your point, when you start to see these things happen, it's pretty incredible. And the person that's not in this every day doesn't necessarily understand the magnitude of it. And that tells you we're still in the very, very early days, which is really exciting.
It's very exciting. So thank you. No, this is great. I love to have your input on all of this. Thank you for that. That's wonderful. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you.
Okay, so I always ask my guests at the end of our conversations to share a story of resilience, some challenges you had to overcome in your life. What did you learn from them? So, what would that be for you, Andrew?
It's it's a very good question. I think, look, I've always been one to take some risks and go after hard challenges and hard companies, and I think they don't always work out. And that's not always a great thing, but I've always like tried to look at things with a solid thesis going in, and what did I learn coming out, and how do you package that to be better and be the best version of yourself, right, next time around. And so, for me, taking on just hard challenges at work have really been what's fueled me and what really motivates me. But it's going to come with setbacks, and you're not always going to get the desired outcome because by definition, it was hard and challenging. But the old saying that, growth doesn't come until you get to the edge of discomfort is really true. And so, every time I've gone through that and gone from one to the next, I've picked up, new skills, new relationships, learned, new industries, got better as a seller, got better as a leader, got better as a manager, got better as an executive. And all of those things compound on themselves. So I'm not going to point to one moment. I'm going to point to the sum of a bunch of little things, right? Which in summary, that growth comes when you get to the edge of discomfort really is true. And so folks should seek a career in the types of things we're talking about and push yourself to be better and understand that each and every step of the way. And in the end, you'll look back and be thankful you did.
I agree with you. It's such great advice. And yeah, sometimes it's hard, and it's, I think, harder for some people than other people. Some people are more prone to taking risks and going for the unknown than others, and that's okay. But for what I like myself, because I've been an entrepreneur now for the last 10 years, it's the thrill of it. It's like, yes, there is uncertainty, but you learn to live with uncertainty. And for me, uncertainty drives me to, or forces me to create again, to invent new solutions, to connect maybe with other people that I typically don't talk to. And that means growth. It's inevitable. When you are in that state of mind, you're forced to be growing. And it's fascinating to me.
Very well said. Thank you for that advice. That's great.
Yeah, well, thank you so much again for being on the show. It was such an honor, Andrew. Thank you.
No, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Yeah, everyone, thank you for watching. Please share this video on your networks. It will be shared on mine as well, but I need, it takes a town to create something incredible, and I need you to share everything that we're doing here, not only for us, because it helps us communicate very important messages, but also for other industry leaders that may need some type of advice, and they may need to work with someone like Andrew to get access to that ultimate playbook for growth and to reach their full potential, because sometimes it's hard to do it on your own. But when you have someone by your side that gives you a strategic plan to start implementing some of those critical technologies that can make a huge difference in your bottom line, that's worth considering. And they can have access to this type of information when you share videos like this one. So please do that. That would be wonderful. Also, remember to subscribe to the channel. That is also very helpful. And we will see you next time.